Welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel for a Game Week 10 preview. Today I'm joined by FPL expert FPL Heisenberg off the back of a very solid Game Week 9. I'm going to get some tips and advice from you, Wes, for the upcoming game week. It's a big game week coming up, isn't it? A lot of people might be on wildcards. A lot of people with 2 free transfers, perhaps, that wildcarded in game week 8. For you, it's slightly different, which gives us a different perspective because you wildcarded earlier. But yeah, first of all, just thoughts on Game Week 10 overall off the back of a good Game Week 9.
Yeah, it's going to be another interesting one. I think captaincy is wide open in Game Week 10. A lot of game weeks, it's been sort of set on Haaland if you had him in a lot of game weeks, or maybe Salah with a good game week. But yeah, now there's sort of, I think there's maybe 4 viable options with Saka, Watkins, Haaland and Salah. And maybe Haaland's the 4th best out of all of those based on fixture, maybe. Seems a bit weird saying that, but yeah, I think there's at least 4 viable captains, which is going to make it interesting. And also, I know we're not going to dwell on Game Week 9 too much, but I just need to celebrate for once. I'm on this video off the back of a decent score. So yeah, I'm a little bit happier.
Well, talking of Game Week 9, I've got your team up on screen. We'll have a quick look back at it. It was a good game week, as I said. You've pretty much halved your rank, 91 points. Very, very solid.
Yes.
Just run us through it quickly before we get into your thoughts for Game Week 10.
Yeah, I don't want to moan straight off the bat because
you're moaning about 91 points, Wes.
I'm going to moan about something. Look at you, doggy, sitting there. Look at you, doggy. He was absolutely robbed of 5 extra points if he just stays on the pitch an extra 5 minutes. But it is what it is. That happens sometimes. I remember Ben White last year went off on the 59th. This was fairly similar. But yeah, other than that, pretty good all round, obviously. And interestingly, I was contemplating getting Salah last week, as we spoke about on the video last week, and I said maybe I'd do Son and Bruno out, but you know, it was ridiculous to take those 2 out before the fixtures that they had, and it worked out well because although Salah got 16, it was still the correct decision because I would have played Diaby, who got 2 points, so Salah plus Diaby is 18 points, minus 4, 14, and Son plus Bruno is 21, so it's 7. Even though Salah killed me, it was still the right decision not to get him.
Yeah, a lot of teams without Salah doing well because of holding on to other cheaper mids that didn't do as well as Salah, obviously. But yeah, you know, the likes of Bruno and Maddison still contributing, which then allowed, you know, you have Watkins, for example. I don't have Watkins, so that's the points difference right there. That's why you got more points than me this week. Let's add a word on your bench, because you tweeted earlier and you said in the video that it was going to be a tough benching decision between Bruno and Burmo. Alvarez was one that you could easily bench because we weren't sure on his minutes compared to Diaby. And you got that one right.
Yeah, I was very happy about that. Like I said in the tweet, that's a large slice of luck, of course, but I looked into as much as I could and the stats and everything to try and come to a decision, and looked at the teams they were facing, narrowed it down to either Mbomo or the RB, and then a few things stacked up for Mbomo, being on penalties, being more of a 90-minute man, having Burnley at home. So maybe some people think it was an easy decision to bench Diaby, but you know, West Ham aren't great defensively, as was shown at the weekend. Villa did score 4 goals, so it was hard to bench any of them, and got a bit of luck. So I'm happy really happy with that.
To be fair, like that could have been a big swing. Like say you had benched Burma, for example, could have been a big swing. But
probably the difference between a green and a red.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, then let's have a look at your team for the upcoming game week. Just what are your initial thoughts? How many transfers do you have? Obviously, not too much in the bank. Just off the rip, what are you thinking?
Yes, 2 free transfers, and Son, even though performed very well, Son and Bruno out for Salah and Palmer.
Okay, that's your initial. So that's, well, I mean, how set are you on those moves? Obviously, Salah is the perhaps glaring hole without another real, you know, we'll come on to captaincy, but he is a good captain this week. Is that part of your thinking?
It is, yeah. And, well, it was more of a fact of just wanting to jump on Salah for the fixture and of Forest at home, Luton away. Like I said, I wanted to do it last week. Couldn't do it without the 2 free transfers. Couldn't do it before Fulham at home for Son. And Bruno had Sheffield United away. Now, obviously, this week's a bit different because Son faces Palace. I'm obviously expecting Son to still get something there, but Palace are a better defensive side than Fulham. And likewise for, Bruno's facing United now. So it's a bit of a different, even though those boys performed for me last week, fixtures-wise, it's a bit of a different story now. Obviously, I'm a little bit late to the Salah party, of course, but yeah, his fixtures look good in the last, and this might surprise people because he's obviously scored a brace this week and last week. But what's impressed me a little bit more about Salah this season compared to, we all know about Salah since the 2017-18 season, right? So 5, 6 years, whatever it is, we know he scores goals. But there was a time when he was quite a selfish player, not really setting up his teammates. Now his big chances created stats and his like expected assist stats and his actual assists are right up there. His he would have an extra assist if it wasn't for that refereeing decision at Spurs as well.
Yeah.
So yes, we know he scores goals. Yes, we know he's on penalties. That's all great. But if you add the assists into that and the fact that he's creating chances, so it's much better for his bonus score as well. So we've seen weeks where he's got a couple of assists and bonus, or he's got just a one goal plus the bonus because he's he's playing differently now. So yeah, the assists added onto his goal threat that we already know he's got makes him an even better asset. So yeah, I'm gutted I'm late to the party, but like I said, if I got him last week, perversely, it wouldn't have even been good, even though he got 16 points. So yeah, it just didn't quite work out for my team. I think because a couple of game weeks ago, I decided to get Watkins with the money. I'd basically saved money for Salah, then I switched and got Watkins, and Watkins has done okay, but
Yeah.
obviously not as good as Salah. So that move a couple of weeks ago probably hasn't worked out. Um, but it is what it is. You can't cry over spilt milk in FPL. Can't be stubborn. You know, I've missed a couple of hauls from Salah, so be it. I've now got him in for still a really nice fixture run. Just look at the next 5 fixtures. Apart from City away, they're all really solid fixtures.
Yeah, I mean, it looks really good. And yeah, obviously, as I said earlier, a good captaincy option. Let's come on to captaincy now, because I think this
Yes.
is one of maybe 2 or 3 weeks maximum where we've had a captaincy debate. I just
Yeah.
want to hear your overall thoughts really on not just this week, but also just the form of Haaland in particular. Got his goal,
Yeah.
and it was a great. I mean, it's a phenomenal goal. But once again,
Mm.
he's not putting up the sort of underlying numbers
Yeah.
over recent weeks that perhaps we expect from Haaland. And we have players now like Salah, who looks to be in great form.
Yeah.
Watkins as well, perhaps an outside shout with a good home fixture to Luton.
Yeah.
Where are you thinking right now?
Yeah, so just quickly on the Haaland thing, a couple of game weeks ago when people were talking about him having bad fixtures, I wasn't on board with that fully because of the Brighton and Bournemouth at home fixtures.
Yeah.
Arsenal away was always going to be tough. I acknowledge that. Man United this week might be okay, not for a haul maybe, but hopefully a goal. But it was the Brighton at home and the Bournemouth at home fixture. I wanted more from this. Obviously, 8 points isn't bad, of course, but wanted more, and especially in the context of, like you said, with Salah smashing it, Son smashing it, the other two captains smashed it, and Haaland got an average score really. So yeah, a bit disappointed about the Brighton game, but my thinking is I will hold him for until Bournemouth now because it's yes, his fixtures as a collection aren't great, and there's other assets doing better than him, etc., etc. But yeah, now I've kept him this long. I'll keep him for Man United away. Won't captain him, but then I'll captain him for Bournemouth at home, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there'll be other options that week because Salah has Luton away. But yeah, I'll probably go hard on that week. And then there's genuinely 4 games in a row which are tough because it's Chelsea away, Liverpool home, Tottenham at home, and then I believe Villa away.
Yeah.
And obviously Villa away these days is really tough. So I think for that block of 4 fixtures, I'll possibly jump off Haaland, maybe jump back to Son. And then when Haaland faces, is it Luton, sort of game at 15, 16
Luton
sort of
away
time?
in 16, yeah.
Yeah, that's when I'll jump back on Haaland, I think. But I've got to be careful spending because Haaland's, it was hard enough for me to get to Salah, for example. But if I spread the money around too much, jumping back to Haaland, who's 14 rather than
Yeah.
12.7 for Salah or whatever, is an even bigger jump. So yeah, I've got to be careful not to spread the money too much. And I want to be able to do maybe in 16, maybe it's Salah down to a 4.5 and then use that money to go from, I don't know, one of my forwards back up to Haaland.
Okay, so this week for captaincy, where
Yes,
are you?
sorry,
Where
yes.
are you at?
I forgot to come back to captaincy.
No,
Yeah,
no.
so
The Haaland question is interesting because we've seen,
Yeah.
people in the community doing well not having him at all, and the fact that you're saying you can get away with not having him, and that's on your mind. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I would probably have, not laughed at that, but thought, really, you really going to do that a few weeks ago? But now,
yeah,
even despite the fact that he is still scoring goals, and no one's saying that he's
Yeah.
not still in good form. It's just we have a lot of other options, and as there are other premium to kind of high mid price players.
Yeah.
For example, Son that you're selling here that are
yeah,
getting more points than him week to week.
yeah, and exactly that. So I can get Son back in. If Son and Salah get an injury or something, then obviously just hold Haaland because there's nowhere really to spend the money. But yeah, to get Son in to maybe squeeze Saka back in, because I've got I would ideally like Saka this week, but I can't. Then Saka has Newcastle away, so I'm happy to dodge him for that one. But then
Yeah.
he bounces back in with Burnley at home, I believe. So yeah, at that point, I will be after Saka. So yeah, maybe two free transfers in that week. Haaland out, Saka and Son in. Maybe minus my first minus of the season to get two premium midfielders in, and then a cheap forward for Haaland. Maybe we'll see. But yeah, it's on my mind, and it's definitely a 4 game week period that I'm happy to take him out. I wasn't personally happy to take him out before Brighton at home and Bournemouth at home, so close together. But hopefully he can pay me back with in the Bournemouth game. Captaincy this week, yeah, I haven't personally got Saka, and I still don't think I would captain him, even if I did. I think the likes of what I know Saka scored so well this season, so maybe I'm talking rubbish, but because it is Sheffield United at home and he is still a
Yeah.
viable, he's obviously a valid, viable captaincy option. I'm not saying he's not, but I'm saying if I did have him along with Salah and Watkins, I still think I personally wouldn't consider Saka that. I'd consider him, sorry, but I don't think I'd end up going there. I think I would end up on either Salah or Watkins. And like I said, I think this week I'm not really considering. I've almost ruled out Haaland, kind of. So I think I'm between Salah and Watkins. I can't really give a definitive answer yet. Watkins does have the better fixture with Luton compared to Forest, who are probably a bit more of a mid-table team this year. Maybe I'm kind of predicting them to come 12th, 13th sort of thing. Whereas with Luton, I think we're all predicting them to go down. So there's a bit
Yeah.
of a difference
That's
there,
fair.
fixture
Yeah.
wise. But Salah, extra point for they've both got sort of pros and cons a little bit. And when you're comparing them as captain options, the old extra point for a midfielder goal, clean sheet point potentially.
Penalties as well, I think, is a big thing.
Yes, yeah, Watkins doesn't have penalties, of course. So yeah, it's a difficult one. If they'd switch fixtures, if Watkins was at home to Forest and Salah was at home to Luton, then it's an absolute no-brainer. And I put a tweet out actually earlier about who's captain sort of thing out of those three, Haaland, Salah, and Watkins. And some people were very adamant that it's a no-brainer Salah. Other people are like, I'm going Watkins. So yeah, very split on the replies there as well.
Yeah, I mean, it should hopefully be quite a fun game week for captaincy with a relatively solid split between a few decent options, which will make it a bit of fun. I mean, we've seen people do well that haven't had Haaland and have gone away from him the last few weeks. So obviously, there's no reason why you have to captain Haaland. You can do very well without doing that. I want to ask you about mid-price midfielders. Palmer's come in for you, right? And he looks like a good pick. Can't argue with that at all. You don't have to play him every week. I mean, I'll ask you in a second if you are going to play him this week. It's probably between him, Alvarez, and Burmo who you're thinking of playing. But overall, say if money was less of an object or less of a kind of barrier, and you had to pick a player that was, let's say 7 million or less. I know for my team in particular, that's a sort of price that I'm kind of looking at, just with trying to get Watkins in, maybe dropping Son down to a mid-price midfielder. You've got Burmo in there. Diaby as well is kind of, he's been a little bit of a letdown past few weeks, but he's got great fixtures coming up. Matoma, Brighton fixture, it's one of those brackets where there are lots of options. Who do you think is the ones to keep an eye on?
Yeah, exactly that. And Diaby has disappointed a little bit, and his fixtures are great because it's Luton at home. So for my situation, I'll hold him. But if I was, say, on a wild card, I'd probably go without, and even go to someone like, if I had to have a Villa midfielder, it would be Douglas Luiz, or like you said, I'd probably go Matoma for the under 7 million. Bowen is obviously around that price a little bit. He's now 7.4, I believe. He's an amazing option. And again, if we had unlimited transfers to make or whatever, then I would be worming my way onto Bowen. However, if I wanted to get someone like Bowen and Saka this week, I'd have to take all the money out of Haaland and then spread it around and take a huge hit. So I can't personally do it. But yeah, out of those mid-price midfielders, under 7 million, it would probably be Matoma now for those fixtures that are really nice now. And we know what Matoma can produce. And there is, I did consider a Dingra at the same sort of price point as Palmer. But for me, yes, Palmer's fixtures aren't great, but this week he's got Brentford at home, and I'm going to bench Mbomo. And then the following week, Mbomo has West Ham at home, whilst I can bench Palmer away at Spurs. And then after those two fixtures are gone, they've actually both got a tough fixture. So at that point, I'm going to be using a transfer in that position anyway. Like I said, the Haaland will have his Bournemouth game gone, so maybe it's Haaland and Mbomo to Son and a cheap forward or whatever I end up doing. So So yeah, I'm not too concerned about Palmer's long-term fixtures. And the thing with Palmer is, it was like, do you ever really get a 4.9 million midfielder who's on penalties for a club that's still a top club who are, I know they've struggled a bit this season, but they're still they played quite well. They played well versus Arsenal. If I'm forced, if injuries force my hand and I'm forced to play Palmer in a tough game, then okay, maybe he'll blank. But equally, he's a cheap enabling player that can blank in some games. But he's on penalties, and he got a penalty versus Arsenal, can get a penalty in any fixture. Like I said, it wouldn't be ideal to play him away at Spurs, home to City, and then away at Newcastle. But I don't intend to. But if I'm forced to, it's not the worst thing in the world. A player on penalties playing in any fixture is never the worst thing in the world, is it?
No, I mean at that price as well. I mean you can't really complain. And
Yeah,
Dinger is an interesting one, just comparison of those two, because if you are looking to play Palmer, well, looking to play this
yeah,
this 5 million slot across the next few fixtures, I think Adingra does have to come into your thoughts. For people that may be
yeah,
unaware, he's started the last few games. Is it in
yeah.
the well? He's playing on the wing.
And March is
They've
now
got
injured as
injuries.
well. Yeah,
March was playing left back, now injured, so he can't even compete there.
yeah,
If he's nailed on, Brighton winger against, look, we've got the fixture up on screen here: Fulham, Everton,
yeah.
Sheffield United, Forest next four. It's good,
Brighton's
isn't it?
is very good, and Brighton scored plenty of goals. There's also, again, I tweeted about this at the weekend after McTominay scored. There's McTominay, who's under 5 million scoring goals. There's Souček, who scored a couple of goals in recent games, and I think he scored a few for his country. There's Longstaff, Murphy from Newcastle. So there's a few players in that price bracket where normally that's sort of a dead zone, isn't it? The sort of 5 million or less midfielders. They're
Yeah.
normally made their bench options at best. Now, I'm not saying they're amazing players, but they are all decent choices for your bench. I felt like Palmer was the only one, and maybe a Dinger is that it's sort of a little bit more improving, I guess, or I don't know as much about him. Whereas with Palmer, I do know more about him
Mm.
from his Man City days and stuff. But yeah, with Palmer, I feel like he's the one that can actually go from. At the minute, I'm seeing him as my eighth attacker, where I will bench him mostly, but maybe he's the one who can actually turn himself into my seventh choice, my seventh attacker, and then I can get a cheaper. I can even go down to Chukwuemeka or whoever for a bench option if Palmer is that man who can play week in week out. Because he's priced at 4.9, but maybe he's going to perform like a 5.5 to a 6 million asset that you just never want to bench. Maybe he can
Yeah.
produce the same as sort of a Neto or a Douglas Luiz, because Douglas Luiz is a 5.5 million player who basically gets all his points from penalties, the odd assist from a corner. Palmer could be maybe quite similar. Palmer plays as an attacking midfielder or winger. So yeah, I feel like Palmer actually has that. Right now, he's my eighth attacker, but he has the potential to in the future be the seventh attacker, which will allow me to, like I say, when I take out the money from Haaland, if I'm happy enough with Palmer to start each week, maybe I'll go all the way down to Archer, and then I've got all that money to play with to pump into Son and Saka in place of say Diaby and Bomo, and have a sort of super team because of Palmer, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I agree with all of that. I've got to say, as a Chelsea fan, he's really impressed me since he's come into the team.
Yeah,
I wasn't completely sure about the transfer overall, but I mean,
yeah,
he's
same.
been proved completely wrong. He looks excellent. Could have scored another goal as well. Yeah, I mean, he was playing in a sort of false nine-ish position, dropping into midfield, linking
Yeah,
up
it was a
really
strange
well,
one,
very
wasn't it? Yeah,
involved. I mean, I love the shot. I thought we played really well in that game until the last 15 minutes. I do have to say. However,
yeah, he
yeah,
was
I mean,
unlucky.
he seems pretty nailed to me as well. I think he's a great pick,
Yeah,
despite the fact that the immediate fixtures are short from 16. Can't see on from here, but from 16 they do get really good. So if you're just looking for someone
yeah,
to hold and put on the bench for a decent amount of time, if you have 8 attackers like you said, then I think he is
yeah.
the best pick. Final question I want to ask you about your team is the defense, because we have Udogi there. I know he came off and that's unlucky, but tightness in the hamstring, maybe needs to do a bit more
Yeah.
work in the gym. I don't know. I'm trying to find a way for Porro over Udogi to not be luck. It's obviously luck. But I want to
Oh
ask you about
yeah.
Estupiñán, because he's still not back. You still got
Mm,
him. He could be so good if he does get back and gets fit and is in the team for
yeah.
that really good run. What are you thinking there with your defense?
I've kind of kept him for two reasons. I haven't really had a spare transfer to just change him to someone. That's point one. Point two is I've been happy enough with since the Superyan's injury, Udogi, Shah, and Cash have had decent enough fixtures in that time period. So it's been okay. I'll play these week in week out. That's going to change. I don't really want to play Shah versus Arsenal, but hopefully
Mm.
Estupiñán is back then. And I guess point three is yeah, I was hoping to hold a Stupinian for this nice fixture run. But equally, if I have to get if an opportunity presents itself to get rid of him, if I have two free transfers and nothing else I really want to do, then yeah, absolutely, I would. For example, this week, if I didn't want to do those moves I said about with Salah and Palmer, I was completely set. And the only issue in my team was a Stupinian, then yeah, I'd probably drop a Stupinian to Simicast and just have a stronger bench, something like that. So yeah, I'm not team, committed to a Stupinian no matter what. Hopefully, it feels like the news has dried up in terms of how close he is to a return. Is he even going to make the Everton, either one of these next couple of game weeks? I don't know.
Yeah, not sure.
So that comes into it. I want more news about his injury, and then I can make a better decision. But yeah, for now, this game week, it's Spurs have actually surprised me defensively. I almost put Udogie in, sort of thinking, right, he's a good attacking player. Spurs attack a lot, so they're going to, they conceded a couple versus Burnley, blah blah blah. They're maybe not a great defensive side, but actually they have surprised me in terms of their defensive capabilities. So yeah, and he got me a clean sheet the other week. Should have been one last week. Had a bit of tightness in the hamstring. He came off.
Could have got an
when he
attacking return as well.
Yeah, he was fairly attacking that first half. So yeah, it's one of those things where, again, Crystal Palace aren't scoring many goals, especially with Eze out, Elise out, is Edouard. Palace are just sort of, I'm not even paying attention to them for an attacking force, but they've got problems there. So yeah, can Udogie go to Palace, get a clean sheet? Decent chance. Shah against Wolves, Newcastle are solid defensive outfit, and Cash has Luton. So yeah, I'm happy with those three for this week, but it will unravel soon in terms of Spurs' fixtures will get a bit tougher from a defensive point of view. Same for Newcastle. I have been surviving just on those three. I would like to have a better option than say, Taylor's probably cheap enough just to stay on my bench, but yeah, Stupinian either needs to recover pretty soonish, or I need to chop him.
Well, interestingly, we'll end on your AI recommended transfers. Can you guess what the recommended transfer is? I'll give you a little bit of a hint. You may have mentioned it in this video.
Okay. Is it the one? It's hard to guess the AI. I don't think it will be. I don't think the AI will necessarily love Palmer. Maybe it will because of penalties, actually. But yeah, I'll say the Salah and Palmer move, but I don't think I'll be right.
It actually isn't, although I have put those moves in already, so I'm not sure if it's necessarily taking that into account. Yeah. But it is actually a Stupinian to Simicast.
Oh yeah.
Which is what you just mentioned. I think, again, we do often see that the AI makes the more solid pick. Yeah. The pick that, has the clear upside. I mean, we look at the predicted points over the next over the next 2 game weeks. Estupinian simply isn't going to play. Simicast is, and he has an excellent home fixture, and he's quite attacking. That's shown in the predicted points.
It's a very solid move. I like that from the algorithm, to be fair. From the AI. And yeah, it is a solid move. And like I said, if I did have a transfer to spare, like I said, my strategy is a bit risky at the minute in terms of what I've done. Yeah, in terms of, I know I'm taking out good players, and I'm not going to sort of bemoan, I'm not going to come on here and cry about being unlucky if Son scores well against Crystal Palace. It's a decent chance of that happening. But there's other players, they're almost luxury transfers, but they're players that I feel like will be able to get me more points this way than the previous way. So I'm happy to take that risk. And it's pretty much the case all season. We build our teams. We know what we're doing. We've got decent players, and unless you get an injury, unless you're taking out an injured player, there's always a good chance of the player you're taking out, biting you. I remember I took out Rashford maybe game week 3, maybe I'm thinking, and he ends up scoring versus Arsenal. Obviously, over the long term, that was a good decision to take him out because he's done very little. But at the same time, maybe the week after I took him out, it was maybe, I can't remember now. But yeah, he did obviously get a decent enough return versus Arsenal. So yeah, when we're picking good players like we are, we're always jumping between them. So I think I remember you had Matoma earlier on in the season. And then did you take him out before Big Haul, or was that someone else?
Yeah, I took him out from Burma, which was always the plan, I think, game week 4. And it didn't really work out. I think we have kind of mentioned it all season, though. This does seem to be the season where, unless you have an injury, like you say, you are going to be selling good players for good players.
100%.
There's a reason why the algorithm isn't recommending you to sell Son off the back of a haul, and he's looked really good. He's had a great start to the season. This is the more solid pick, but if you want the upside and you look at Salah as the upside, which he obviously is, then yeah, I guess that's where you think you can get your edge over the AI, over a more sensible move, perhaps in inverted commas. But I think just very simply, as a one-off move, which also would maintain your 2 frees, this is probably a decent move to go with. Guys, if you would like your own personalized AI recommended transfers, as I say every video, the link to sign up to Fantasy Football Hub is down below. Still a 7-day free trial and 30% off if you sign up now. Do it. Just do it. I mean, go and get these AI recommended transfers. You don't have to do them. Wes isn't going to do it, I don't think. We'll wait and see what you do end up doing, but you did seem pretty set on those 2 moves. There wasn't much deliberation when I asked you. How confident are you that you're going to go with those 2 moves before we end today's video? We'll get your final team reveal later, but how confident right now on Tuesday evening?
Yes, I am confident of those, of Salah and Palmer for sure.
Okay. Well, there we go. Wes, thank you very much. As always, once again, we'll see your final team in case we get some injuries and stuff. Recording this earlier in the week than usual, so things may change. We'll get your final team reveal on the website as always. Guys, sign up to Fantasy Football Hub. You might be thinking, it's game week 10. What's the point? No, there are still 28 game weeks left. Don't miss out. There's still so much content available on there. All the tools that I personally love that I show in every video. Go and take advantage of it. Wes, thank you very much. As always, good luck in game week 10. Good luck to all of you guys as well, and we will catch you on the next one.